The off season is, we really shouldn't do power rankings, which is why I'm doing power rankings. Um, and I don't have a board, so for anybody who's going to fast forward to the end, sorry. For people who fast forward to the middle, sorry. For people who just want to jump around and don't want to actually listen to what I have to say, uh, many apologies. I'm in Vegas with the internet speed being what it is. I'm not sure. I guess I try to upload this tonight, and then there's a short video in the morning I'm going to try to upload as well. I'm not sure when this is going to post, but I'll apologize up front. I'm wearing Nashville because they didn't play Vegas in the playoffs, so I'm trying to make sure that the jerseys I bring are nice and neutral. Don't have enough Vegas to go through a 5-day period, but hey. At number 31, it doesn't get better for Ottawa, does it? Uh, yeah, all the Eric Carlson rumors, and from what I've seen of what they might get back, I just don't see it getting better for Ottawa. I just don't. And I want to. I don't want Ottawa to stay at 31. I want them to move up, but it doesn't look good. You notice Craig Anderson hasn't been traded? I'm sure Craig Anderson's noticed as well. It's just a bad situation all around. At number 30, the Canucks. Now, they signed Jay Beagle, they signed Antoine Roussel, and everybody's jumping all over Jim Benning. Worst GM in the history of hockey. The Canucks weren't going to be good without Beagle and Antoine Roussel. Roussel adds a little bit of sandpaper in the bottom six, and Beagle as a checking forward. No, he doesn't add offense. You know what? Your fourth line center doesn't really need to add offense. If he gets 7 goals and 22 points like he did this past season, the Canucks will be jubilant over that kind of production from the fourth line. If you've been paying attention to the Canucks the last few years, their fourth line has been a wasteland. So at least they've done that. But a fourth line doesn't move them up the chart. At number 29, you know what's funny? These 3 teams were the bottom 3 teams the last time I did this about 2 weeks ago. And I just haven't seen anything in their moves that make me say, okay, Shannon, now you got to move them up. You have to move them up. They got to move up. I just haven't seen it. I know Montreal got Domi. They got him at the expense of Galchenyuk. I don't know that that's an upgrade. To me, it looks like it could be a downgrade, but again, I haven't seen enough from Montreal for me to say yes. This season, they're going to move up. If Price is healthy and he's capable of putting up his career average numbers, they're going to be fine. But as it stands right now, I don't see it. At number 28, it's the only magnet that's not here. And you know how awkward it was for me to put all of them on this couch here and realize that it wasn't here? It's the New York Islanders. The Islanders dropped 7 spots by losing Tavares. Now, they may very well be able to mitigate the loss of Tavares and come out with a good record. But the idea that losing Tavares, they're now a playoff team, is a huge stretch that I can't. I can't fathom. So I'm not going to try. Adding Komarov and adding Martin, it's not bad. It's not bad to have that grit in the bottom 6 and to have those guys who clearly Lou Lamoriello likes having in his lineup. So that's good. And I wish nothing but the best for those guys. But it doesn't mean the Islanders move up. Now at number 27, the Rangers move up 1 spot due to the fall of the Islanders. The Rangers are one of those teams I'm looking at and saying they could very well rebound. Now this isn't the last off-season power rankings I'm going to do. It'll happen again. I don't know, maybe in 2 weeks. Maybe. Again, it depends on free agent signings. It depends on player movement, potential trades. If Ottawa makes a trade and if they make a huge addition, sure. But for now, things are going to stay static. And I was kind of surprised at how little certain teams moved up and some moved down. At number 26, moving up 1 spot, Chicago. So they move up 1 spot because honestly, the Islanders' nosedive has helped them. Now, I know Chicago signed Ward, and they've signed a couple other guys, and there are reasons to be optimistic, but I can't bump them up any further than this right now. I don't look at Chicago and say, oh, they're definitely going back to the playoffs. We need to know what's going on with Corey Crawford. We really do, because is Cam Ward a guy who can play 55, 60 games? Not at this stage. But if Corey Crawford is capable of being a starting goaltender and playing 50, 55 games, and Ward's only counted on for 25, now you're talking. Now you're in a position where maybe these guys can make some noise. But I can't suggest that right now. At number 25, staying put, Buffalo. Sabres don't move up, they don't move down from when they drafted Darlene, because they really haven't made a ton of moves to make me think that they're going to necessarily get a lot better, a lot worse. I know the Ryan O'Reilly deal has moved them down for a lot of people. For me, it really hasn't, because when your team was the worst in the league, it can't really get worse. And Buffalo throughout the season was the worst team in the league. I know Arizona was close, but Buffalo really was just wall to wall the worst team in the league. So I don't look at the O'Reilly deal and say, oh well, they're screwed, because they have some strength down the middle, and they could very well pull out of it. And at this time in next year, we could be talking about a Buffalo went on this tremendous run out of nowhere. I'm concerned with their goaltending tandem, only from an inexperience point of view. Neither of them have ever been a starter in the NHL, but I like their chances somewhat. At number 24, and these guys drop 4 spots, Carolina. Adding Mrazek, and here's the thing. Adding Svechnikov, I should have them moving up. Right now, Carolina should be moving up. I should be talking about how Carolina can make the playoffs. And Carolina can make the playoffs. But at the expense of Ward and adding Mrazek, I can't look at a goaltending tandem of Mrazek and Darling and say, right now they're better off than where they were at the end of the season. I just can't. At 23, Detroit's staying put. Detroit's staying right where they were. Detroit's one of those teams. Yes, they could move up. Yes, they could get better. These standings do not necessarily denote who's making their not making the playoffs. It's just who do I see right now as having made some really good moves that would allow them to move up or move down the charts. Right now, Detroit stays put at 23. Bernier is an upgrade over Mrazek, absolutely. And it'll be interesting to see what Detroit does this year. At 22, Edmonton. I do think Edmonton's made some decent moves, and I do think Edmonton's going to have some sort of a bounce back. Edmonton's tough to call, and I know there's Oiler fans that are going to expect them to do crazy things, and I looked at TSN's power rankings tonight, and they have them at 15th. And I don't see them in that spot because that's playoffs, and I don't see that the Oilers have done enough to change things for me to say, yeah, they will be in the playoffs. They've made some solid moves. I think they've made some smart moves, but do I see them as a playoff team? I don't know. We haven't got there yet, have we? No, we haven't got to the preview stage of the summer. At number 21, Dallas moves up 3 spots. So while the Oilers move up 4 from the last time I did one of these guys move up 3. Bringing back Nichushkin, it could be a huge move for Dallas. Bringing in Nichushkin, some of the moves they've made, I think Dallas is in a decent position. I think Hudobin's going to be a better backup than what Lehtinen was last year. At least the numbers would seem to suggest he should be. And I think Dallas is in a position to move up. But remember, this is position 21. This means that, yeah, they're better, but not a lot. I haven't seen a lot of improvement on that blue line, and I need to see some improvement. If they could get this Erik Karlsson kid somehow, that would really help them out a lot. At number 20, Minnesota drops 3 spots. I have some concerns with Minnesota, and the free agent period didn't really help. And they have some cap concerns. There was rumors they were looking to move Eric Stahl. I haven't heard anything more about it. I look at Minnesota as a team that's kind of been spinning its wheels, and I could see them falling out of the playoffs this year. There's going to be teams that move up. If you look at this past season, I think it was, 8 teams that made the playoffs in 2018 that missed in 2017. So it's going to mean that there's going to be fans at the end of this season coming up that start out really angry with me and with pundits who are right, and there's going to be some who get angry with me. They're going to be wrong. It's going to be a very contentious summer, which is why you guys have a vote in how things are going to be reported. When I do my previews. Yeah, I'm not going down alone on this. When I do my season previews, and I go into who's going to finish in what position, voting by the channel will definitely play a role in that. So these guys right now for me are 20th. Can they move up? Absolutely. 19th, staying steady, Arizona. I know the Coyotes fans are kind of mildly optimistic about things, and I think that's probably right. I think that The second half of the season was encouraging, and I think they will potentially move up this year, but it's how much. It's a question of how much, and can they do the miraculous work that Colorado did. I don't know if they can go that far, but they're certainly going to give it their best efforts. 19. I'm not sure what's going on with, or at 18, I'm not sure what's going on with Anaheim, but they dropped 2 spots. Um, they lost BX, which wasn't a huge deal. Um, they just seem to be kind of spinning their wheels this offseason, and they got passed by a couple of teams. That's all that happened. There were 2 teams that were behind them that, in my eyes, passed them, and sometimes that's all it takes. Sometimes it's not a matter of a team getting worse; it's just the teams behind them got better, and then you're falling. So right now, for me, Anaheim, I have at 18th. If Kessler's out all year, that's going to hurt, and we'll see whether or not some of their prospects are ready. That's definitely going to affect how things work out for them this coming season. If Sam Steele can come in and get a position on the roster right away, they have a shot at this. But that's a lot to ask. At 17, moving up 5 spots, is Calgary. I like what Calgary's doing. Now, I will say this. James Neal, it's a rich contract. They may end up regretting it at some point soon. But if it's first half of the season James Neal that shows up, and not as much the second half of the season James Neal that shows up, and for the record here in Vegas, if you want James Neal gear, it's available and it's on for cheap because he's outie. But Calgary's in a half decent spot. I with adding Lindholm, adding Hannafin, while they lose Hamilton and lose Ferland, I still think this puts Calgary further ahead. I don't know that it hurts Carolina very much, but I think it does help Calgary. So if that makes any sense, which probably not. Okay, so that's the bottom 15. Let's get into the top 16. At 16 and dropping 3 spots is Jersey. Now, Jersey drops in my eyes again. This is teams ahead of them teams behind them have passed them more than they've made any mistakes. And Jersey is going to have a challenge holding on to a playoff spot this year. Young roster, talented roster, speedy roster. But they're going to have their challenge this year, repeating what they did this past season because teams know they're not going to catch anybody off guard this coming year. I'm still, look at this, top 16. I'm just saying it's going to be tough for them. At 15, these guys drop 6 spots. You can't afford to have this uncertainty around Panarin. And until we know what's going on there, I think this is the kind of thing that's going to be a distraction. When your top offensive player is saying, I don't know if I want to stay here, that's not a good sign. And that's where we're at. And for that reason, I have Columbus where I have them. And it's hard to put Columbus there, but honestly, I've had people telling me I had Columbus too high at 9. So there you go. At 14, Florida. Adding Hoffman, potentially gigantic. Florida has made some very smart moves. Yes, they're near the cap. Yes, they have aging goaltending in guys like Luongo. And Reimer's not aging as much as there's question marks about whether or not he's a starter. I do think he's underrated. How much? That's the debate. So we'll see what Florida is and what Florida's capable of. At number 13 is Philly. The Philadelphia Flyers have dropped 1 spot from where they were the last time around. And again, it's Philly. I like the James Van Riemsdyk signing a ton. Absolutely. It's wonderful. It's fantastic. I just keep worrying about goaltending. I just keep having doubts about the goaltending going forward in Philly. So for me, that's why Philly is still lingering in this spot, and they're just kind of back and forth, and I have them at 13. At 12, this one's tough because LA adds Kovalchuk, which makes them older. I don't know that they're a team that needed to get older, but yeah, LA is a tough one to figure out. Are they going to move up? Are they going to be one of the better teams in their division this year, or will adding Kovalchuk be a problem due to age, and this is only because LA has been called old and slow before. I know Kopitar had an amazing season this past year. Dustin Brown had a huge bounce back. Can Dustin Brown replicate that? Can Kopitar replicate that? They're kind of going to have to because LA needs them to. At 11, staying steady, Boston. Losing Riley Nash hurts. Losing Rick Nash, despite his lack of goal scoring, hurts. They've kept most of the rest of the players together. I think adding Halak, I think that's about an even trade-off for Hudobin. But that being said, Hudobin's numbers are better than Halak's. I think Moore's going to help them on the blue line. I was kind of surprised they added Moore. I wasn't sure why they were necessarily in on John Moore, but Don Sweeney's been smart with this kind of thing before, so we'll see. But for me, Boston stays the same. I don't see them any higher or lower, and I could see them falling before the season starts. At 10, again, staying steady is Colorado. Colorado adding Grubauer, fantastic, wonderful move, great move. Since then, it's been kind of quiet. They've kept things status quo. And with the season they just had, who can blame them? Colorado has been solid. Solid enough that I really think they're going to be okay going forward. But there's a holding pattern with some of these teams for a reason. At number 9, there's fans of this team saying, wait, where are we? Wait, all these other teams are staying the same. Where are we? St. Louis moves up 9 spots. I'm sorry, but adding Ryan O'Reilly is huge. Now the rumor has it they're going to add Patrick Maroon. They bring back Perron. This is going to be a very interesting year for St. Louis because in my eyes, they nailed this offseason. They saw what they needed to do, and they did it. And losing Carter Hutton may hurt. It puts more pressure on Allen, but Jake Allen's been a solid starter before. He can get there again. So St. Louis being at 9, I don't think is that much of a reach. Number 8, and they dropped 2 spots, and again, it's other teams passing them and just feeling like Pittsburgh's not done yet. Something else is coming with Pittsburgh. Losing Sherry, it hurts a bit, but they had to do it. They had to cut some salary so they could keep other guys on the team. Simone's going to get a shot at that spot Sherry once occupied, and I do think Sprong gets this opportunity in the fall. That being said, I dropped them down to 8th, but we'll see where they end up. At 7, staying the same, San Jose. I think San Jose, while if they got Tavares, they would have moved up quite a bit. I think the Sharks are steady. They've got a solid enough defense that they are still a playoff team. Their goaltending is better than people give it credit for, and their forward group is a pretty solid, likable group, according to a couple of transplants from the San Jose area who have moved here. The San Jose Shark guys are very accessible and close, and they're all there's some camaraderie there, and you can't really script that for players and teams. It's either there or it isn't. So the fact that it's there in San Jose could very well be why they're always in the playoffs. Where they lack is the reason why they were after John Tavares. They need that big, strong forward, that big center who can score a ton of points like Thornton did. Thornton's coming back for one more year to help out. That can only help with Evander Kane. Questions about Kane and his personality. You know what? If you got a Jumbo Joe in the locker room and you got Burns as well, I'm not worried about Kane's personality. I'm not worried about him going off the rails because I don't think that that's going to be allowed by Jumbo Joe. At number 6, and they drop a few spots. Let's be honest, they drop a few spots. The Jets, for me, losing Stastny is not a reason to drop them down much, but they did clear out cap space in part to try to retain Stastny, and then Stastny went to Vegas. And while they didn't need Stastny to get to where they got to in the standings, I do think he played a large role for them in the playoffs, and I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that in these rankings and drop Winnipeg down a bit. I still think Winnipeg looks good. There's a lot of other guys who can come in and hopefully do the job he did, but They are going to miss him. Number 5, these guys stay steady. Nashville. The Preds are an interesting team. There's going to be a lot of talk this year because Ellis's contract is going to be up, and Nashville could very well find themselves in a cap crunch next summer. And what are they going to do? Who gets moved out? What ends up happening? And what kind of moves will they make between now and next year's trade deadline? Be interesting to see, but for now, I think the roster's pretty steady, and I have no problem leaving them where they've been. Number 4, and dropping 2 spots. It's Vegas. I think Vegas losing Neal and Perron, I think while that may hurt somewhat, gaining Stastny mitigates a lot of that. They've kept most of the rest of the band together. They will keep Karlsson. There's no chance Karlsson goes anywhere else. I did talk to some Vegas fans that had some concerns, and I put that all to rest. Karlsson's not going anywhere. The question then becomes, can Karlsson replicate 40 goals? Probably not, but who expected 40 goals this year? Nobody. So I could be completely wrong. I like the makeup of Vegas as a team. I think they're going to be fine going forward. There's enough guys who can come in and contribute. I think Brandstrom's going to get a shot this year. I think Glass is going to get a shot this year. And if both of them can get in the lineup, I think it could make a huge difference. Combined with Stastny, they could give a whole different look to their game while still playing Gerard Gallant's system. At 3, moving up 5 spots, is Toronto. I know you're not first. They're near or at the top of all Vegas odds around the city here for Stanley Cup. They are the team everybody's talking about. TSN has them number 1 on the power rankings, and I get it, and I've moved them up 5 spots. I still think there's 2 teams in the East that I have them in back of for right now. But, Toronto could easily be a very dominant team this year in the regular season. It could be very hard to keep up with them. This could be a President's Trophy winning team. And no, I don't believe in that being a jinx. So I'm not trying to jinx them at all. I don't believe in it. Toronto's, with adding Tavares and not giving anything up to get him, other than cap space, it's a fantastic move. We'll see how it pays off. At 2, and I moved them up 2 spots, is Tampa. Because Tampa looks like they're not only keeping everybody, but they're potentially adding. If they get Karlsson, I cannot fathom Erik Karlsson on this team. That is just insanity right there. But if it happens, this team is dangerous, and they could very well be a Stanley Cup contender throughout the year, and it could be really, really tough. We could be in another situation where you've got the teams 1 through 3 in the Atlantic being some of the best teams in the league, and teams 2 and 3 having to face off with each other, with one of them going home in the first round. I still have the Caps in first, and I know people are going to rail against that. They won the Stanley Cup. They lost Philip Grubauer, but Grubauer was not a part of the Stanley Cup run other than the losses. Well, the loss he took in the Game 1, and then in Game 2 he got replaced after an iffy start. So Grubauer is a loss. But the Capitals have kept almost every player from that Stanley Cup roster. They have more kids coming up who can produce. And I can't justify dropping them out of first place because of a move another team did at this stage of the game. It would have to be something big, or we'd have to see some kind of a seismic shift. If Tampa gets Karlsson, sure. If Toronto makes another move to help improve their blue line, and that could be tricky in how that would work, sure. It's not Tanev. I'm going to say right now, if anybody thinks I'm one of those delusional people that thinks that Tanev gets you something substantial at Toronto, I just don't see it. But, yeah, I still have the Capitals at first. So there you go. No whiteboard, and a lot less pomp and circumstance than normal. But there's your power rankings for the second week of July, 2018. I apologize to people whose teams have fallen in the rankings, and congratulations to those who moved up. And remember, these are not to be used for betting purposes. These do not help with life-saving operations, and they do not substitute for CPR. Thank you so much for watching. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. I'll talk to you again soon.